started. This is Fletcher Harper with Green Faith. Welcome to everybody to this PCM Faith Call. We're excited. We're, I think, less than 7 weeks out from the march. We've got some good updates and information to share today. And wanted we to get things started. Alora, if it's okay, why don't we start with you and have you give everybody an overview of the organizing that you've been working on. This is Alora Carter with Sojourners, who's been doing some really, really super organizing with a number of different constituencies that she'll describe. So Alora, maybe introduce yourself, say a little bit to folks about Sojourners, and then share the organizing that you've been doing.
Sure. Hi, my name is Alora Carter. I am the Climate Justice Associate for Sojourners. I also handle environmental justice, creation care, whatever environmental stuff usually falls in my hands, and I take care of it. Myself, Green Faith, and Franciscan Action, we're all on the steering committee for PCM. So we sit in 2-day meetings and we do a conference call about once a day, which is very fun and also very taxing sometimes. I'll just briefly talk about some of the outreach that we've been doing through Sojourners. I have 2 wonderful interns who I cannot live without, who keep me going, and they've been helping me kind of set up a network. We've kind of set up a network region by region, and we've pointed out some faith groups to do environmental work, some colleges, Christian and non-Christian colleges, as well as some other environmental groups that we feel like the group maybe hasn't had a chance to reach out to. We drafted a simple letter, saying, we want you to be a part of the march. How can we support you? How can we help you? Ask them to reach out to Sojourners, and then we would point them in the direction of PCM. And we've gotten a pretty good response from some groups who are definitely interested. We're working now with a couple HBCUs in the Southeast about coordinating some students on some buses to bring up for the march. We've also sent out a recent email Friday with some different hotels. So we're trying to help people get hotel blocks so they can come and stay for the weekend. And we've been coordinating up sort of a network as well with afterwards, so that we have people who are, I guess you can call it a phone tree, where we're going to have follow-up afterwards from whoever comes or shows interest, so we can continue to follow up with how they felt about the march and how we can stay better in contact and how we can support them. Even though we don't have the most money in the world to support them, we can still support them in other ways with whatever projects they're working on and give them that necessary push they need to continue doing their environmental work. So, I say our response is pretty good. We're still reaching out. I'm still trying to coordinate some hotel stuff. So once I get that done, I can definitely pass it on to other people who know people that are coming, that are thinking about, taking some blocks for some hotels. And that's about it. Just continuing the outreach and seeing how many people we can gather for April 29th. And hopefully we can get some folks to gather before and after, so that we can do some lobbying or some other community service activities here in the DC area.
That's great. And Alora, share with folks what have been some of the messages that you find people are responding to. What's been moving? What do you feel has been really connecting with people or moving people when you and your team have been speaking with them?
We drafted 2 letters, one for faith outreach and one for just general outreach. And both letters have gotten, I've had to send the letters a couple times to different people, so some things get buried in inboxes, but it's been a good response of, I've kind of heard about it, but I wasn't sure what capacity we could play. We can't send a whole busload, we don't have the money, and I've just kind of let people decide their level of engagement. So I've said, you may not be able to bring your whole entire college campus or bring everybody from the organization, but maybe you could send 2 or 3 people. And if you're in Mississippi and someone else is 2 hours away from you in Mississippi, you guys can meet together and try to come from Mississippi versus you trying to do something by yourself. I've expressed, if you can't come, have you looked into starting a sister march? Have you thought about doing a day of community service? I've said, I've let people kind of choose their level of engagement. A lot of them have been excited about trying to come, along with raising funds and getting people excited about it. But some have said, what, maybe we can do something here in our own hometown where we're doing a cleanup day. We're doing a protest outside of our county commissioner's office. So we've had a good response of people wanting to be engaged about it. And I've been just linking it to, I'm not sure what's going on in, Alpharetta, Georgia, but let me know what's happening with you guys on the environmental front, what's going on in these communities. And they've kind of just relayed their stories to me. And I said, well, here's how I can figure out how to help you. And I've just been offering to connect them to the right people, or just trying to connect them to other groups so they can bring their story to DC. That's what I've basically been saying, bring your story, bring your issue, bring it here to the district, and tell other people about what's going on, in your small town or community. So, that's how I've been kind of relaying it to people.
That's great. And give us like an anecdote or a story about something that's happened, an exchange that you've had with folks that's been meaningful as part of this.
Okay, I'll say in North Carolina, I want to say Raleigh-Durham area, probably more so Durham area, they have a great problem with pig farming and hog farming. They have several farms full of like pigs, and they have these places where their waste go. It's not a good, it's a problem they've had for a number of years. I think North Carolina is number 2 in hog farming and pig farming. I think Iowa's number 1. One of the main problems they have is that when it floods there or it's heavy rains there, all the waste from the pigs from these facilities ends up going into the soil, into people's wells. A lot of people use well water there. So they're literally fighting back and forth with the county and the state to get these facilities to either cease to exist or to figure out how to clean up places or, resolve their problems. And they've been in back and forth fight with, the county and the state and the poultry farmers like Purdue and other big companies who will, pay off whatever county commissioner to ignore the fact that they're literally poisoning people's waters, their wells, so their water is poisoned. So that's one issue that they've been fighting with back and forth, and I've been trying to tell their story as well as encourage them to keep going. So it's really a local effort between churches and community leaders who are trying to get these companies to clean up their mess with the pig farming and, get their water issues resolved, which we're hoping will happen soon. But, they've been in a fight for the last 5 or 6 years, and but they're very strong and they're very knowledgeable and they're continuing the fight. So that's one story that I've heard from some people there, and I'm encouraging them to come as well to DC and share their story, or they're thinking about doing a local effort that will really bring some attention to themselves and what they're going through. So we're still in progress with that, but that is one story that I've heard.
That's great. Well, thanks. And stay with us. Jason, can we hear you? Say something to make sure we can hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, all right. We did it. Good job.
Hey, all right. Old technology always works best. But I got this new laptop, and I guess I got to figure out how to use it. I think that's the problem. So, everybody, I'm Jason Miller, the Director of Campaigns at Franciscan Action Network. And like Alora said, I'm on the steering committee for the PCM. Excited to have our next in-person steering committee meeting on Thursday and Friday, because I think we finally we got a plan now. We got buses signed up. We're cooking with oil. So there's lots going on with the Catholics and the wider interfaith community, because we do have Episcopal Franciscans, as Fletcher and perhaps others well know on this call. So we're excited. We're going to have a mass on the Saturday morning of the People's Climate March at 9 a.m. at St. Dominic's Church. There is a Facebook event invite. If that is your thing, please sign up on the Facebook page. We'd love to have anybody there, any and all folks, even if you're not Catholic. I won't tell anybody. And we also are working on a couple different potlucks. Sounds like there's going to be one out in Arlington with some churches, as well as one at the Stewart Center in Brooklands, as the Little Vatican, as we call it here in DC. So they had one as well for the Women's March, so they've hosted them before. We're looking for, if there's groups coming by bus, perhaps your parish or school or university. I know there's a group from Notre Dame coming that's going to be at one of the potlucks. So if you're coming in a big group, or even if you're not, we'd love to have you at one of the potlucks, and certainly at the Mass. So I know, like I said, there's a group from Notre Dame, I think about 15 students. And I just heard today that there is a group of Catholics in New York that are looking to fill a bus. So if you're up in the New York area, want to come on down with the New York Catholics, let me know. Mm-hmm.
I think you're still on mute, Fletcher.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lori. Yep, I had muted myself. So, Jason,
At first I thought it was me, and then I realized it was
Nope.
you.
Nope, that was me. So, just like I asked Laura, share with folks a little bit about what kind of messages do you find are resonating with the Catholic colleagues and the communities that you guys are working with, and share a sort of in addition to the bus coming from Notre Dame, any other anecdotes you'd like to share? It's always fun to hear those.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think a lot of Catholics and non-Catholics too are still energized by Pope Francis and Laudato Si, and this is really a moment to try to continue that message. I know that folks like the Catholic Climate Covenant and the Global Catholic Climate Movement are planning all sorts of events around the People's Climate March, sort of in the week leading up to the march, and so they really want to use the Pope's message to try to reach out to an even greater number of Catholics. There's something like, I don't know, only like 10% of Catholics even know about the Pope's encyclical on the environment, and so we really want to use that try to use this as another springboard to promote the Pope's message and the Church's message. So I think people, once they find out about it, they're excited, they're ready to go, but we still need to get that out there some more.
Great. And any other anecdote you'd share? I love the bus coming from Notre Dame.
Yeah, and I'm excited about the bus from New York. All of a sudden I'm getting calls from the nuns at the Stewart Center saying, oh, well, we did this, potluck, the Women's March. Let's do one now for the People's Climate March. So they're becoming potluck central. I just love, when they call you out of the blue and you don't have to, beg and plead to get things done. When they're reaching out to you, you know that, word's getting out and you're doing something right.
Awesome. Well, that's great. Well, thanks a million, Jason. That's really super. And there's information on the PCM Faith page about the location of the Mass that FAN has been able to organize. And when we send out the link to the recording to everybody, we'll also make sure that we include the link to that PCM Faith page as well.
That's all on there. So
great. So Karen, I know you've been pretty busy at DC, Maryland, Northern Virginia, IPL. Why don't you give everybody an update on the good stuff you've been working on?
Sure. One of the biggest things that I'd love to let folks know about is that we are organizing the hospitality for the faith community coming in from out of town, which means if you are in the DC area, we'd love for you to volunteer to host some folks from out of town. And if you are out of town and like a place to stay, we would love to help you out as well. So if you go to faith.peoplesclimate.org and click on hospitality, you'll find all of the information you need to either volunteer as a host or to sign up to be connected with a host. And again, for folks living in the DC area, what we've heard is that supply often is less than the demand, so we'd really love as many folks as possible to offer up some spaces and some beds in their homes. Aside from that, we are also helping to compile all of the events, all of the faith-related events around the People's Climate March and organizing some of our own. And so our director, Joelle, is organizing a Jewish Climate Shabbat on Friday evening, the 28th. And then we also have someone who is helping to organize a Catholic service on Saturday morning. And you can find all of those events on again, at faith.peoplesclimate.org. There's a link that you can click on to the calendar of all of the events. I think those are the main things for now.
Great. That's fantastic. What I'd like to do now is share some good news that we've got, which is that we've got a preliminary route announcement to share. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull up a map of the route, or of the proposed route. So you should be seeing this now on your screen, and you can see on the right hand side of the screen is where the Capitol is located, and on the upper left is where the White House is located. And so this is the basic concept that that's being worked with at this point. So if you look where it says there's a yellow rectangle that says lineup with a thick vertical gray line going up and down, and that's on 3rd Street in front of the Capitol between Pennsylvania and Independence Avenues. And at this point, it's envisioned that that's where we'll all assemble. That's where the different groups and constituencies will line up. So there'll be a frontline community, which will be right at the head of the march to emphasize our commitment to climate justice that protects and is good for vulnerable communities first and foremost. Somewhere in that lineup area, there will be an area for the faith groups to line up together. That hasn't yet been entirely set. And as soon as we get that set, we'll obviously share that with folks. And the idea is that starting at 11 o'clock in the morning is when we'll start to assemble. So we'll have the faith lineup area, and we'll start to gather at 11 in the morning. And I'll say a little bit more about that gathering time in just a moment. Once we, the aim is to have the march actually kick off at 12:30. And so the march will proceed down Pennsylvania Avenue. You can see following there's a gray line for those of you who are on the computer and able to watch. For those of you who aren't on the computer but are on the phone, we'll send out the slide so that everybody can see this when you're in front of a computer. So we'll proceed down Pennsylvania Avenue towards the White House. And once we get quite close to the White House, what we're planning to do at that point is to fan out in a way that will end up having us encircle the White House. So that we'll have the White House and the White House ellipse totally encircled, and there will be some kind of symbolic action that we will all participate in together when we have the White House encircled. And the arts team for the PCM is still hard at work trying to figure out exactly what that symbolic action will be. There's a lot of interest. For those of you who were involved in the march in New York, you may remember that there was a collective moment of silence, followed by a collective outcry for climate action. And so I know that some version of that kind of thing is happening, or planning is happening around that. On our next call, I'm excited to say that we'll have Rachel Schragus, who's one of the leaders of the arts team for the PCM, which is doing a lot of work on this design for the march. Rachel will be with us, and she'll be able to share, we hope, a little bit more information about that special moment around the White House, as well as other pieces about the arts team and the mobilization and the march. So we'll learn more from Rachel when she's on with us next. And then following the encircling of the White House, we'll all proceed to gather. There'll be a mass gathering on the grounds of the Washington Monument, with the idea and the hope that we'll be able to do some kind of action there where everybody who is, where there's some sort of action that serves as a movement building moment when we can connect with each other across our different sectors, so that people of faith can connect with folks from the labor movement who are there, and with the environmental justice community and that sort of thing. And there's some work going on in terms of how to design that to make it as effective as it can possibly be. But the exciting thing is we've got a basic design for the march, which you can see here in front of you. I want to circle back for a moment to the question of that the faith gathering place. As many of you know, in New York, we had a single sort of pre-march multi-faith prayer and music time. What we've seen emerging in DC, which has been absolutely wonderful, and which the DC, Northern Virginia, Maryland IPL team has really been doing a great job of encouraging, is that there are a number of different pre-March activities, both Friday night and Saturday, that has been emerging. And we really want to encourage and support that. And so what we're going to be looking into is how can we continue to encourage that, because we think it's really great to let 1,000 flowers bloom with this, and to have as many sort of pre-March activities planned as possible, while also trying to use that time between 11 and 12:30 when there's a lineup happening, create an opportunity for some form of collective activity, probably mostly musical in terms of singing, that would represent the diversity of all of the different groups and faith groups and peoples of different faiths who are gathering together. So we're in the early stages now that we've got the logistics, or now that we've got this basic route lined up. We're in the early stages now of trying to figure out how exactly that might work. And as soon as we've got some more information about that, we'll share it. So to recap, you see the route in front of you. Excuse me, we've got lots of good different pre-March activities that are being planned, all of which are listed on the faith page of the PCM website. And we'll be adding more of those activities as we get them. And we'll also be sharing more information about the exact gathering place for the faith community before the march, in that area where there's the thick gray line that you see in front of the Capitol, and also more details as we can get them about any special activities that we'll be able to have during that 90-minute time while we're all forming up and gathering together. So that's the update on that. I'm going to take the map down off the page now, and I'm looking to see in terms of a couple of questions that have come in. So there will be questions in terms of, will there be group t-shirts for the faith community, a bonfire, and it says T-chip. I'm not sure if that means a thunderclap. I'm apologize for not understanding that particular. What we are, last time we did not have group t-shirts for the faith community. I know that there was just some work being done last week about getting an overarching PCM t-shirt together. If there are a lot of folks interested, we could probably do a modification of that for something that would add a faith piece to that. So why don't folks sort of email, and we'll see if there's appears to be a critical mass in terms of interest around that. I know that we're not anticipating a bonfire, just because I think the permitting for that publicly is probably not so easy. And if I interpret what the T-chip properly in terms of thunderclap, there will absolutely be there will absolutely oh, okay, I'm just seeing that bonfire and T-chip are online companies. Okie doke, sorry about that. Another question in terms is in terms of what kinds of banners or props people are able to carry. We'll get information from Rachel about that, Rachel Schragus, the arts person, when she speaks with us. I know that in many cities it's the case now that you can't carry signs with wood or metal poles, because the police don't want something that is easily turned into a weapon or that could hurt someone. So we'll get more details on that from Rachel when she speaks with us. Another logistical detail that I wanted to mention is that we are going to start now having these calls on a weekly basis instead of bi-weekly. We think that there's enough new and important updates to share. We want to be able to make sure we create opportunities for lots of different groups to be reporting in on the organizing and mobilizing work that they're doing. And we also want to continue to do whatever we can to to build momentum. So anyway, that's update. I'm looking through my list to make sure that to see if there were any other items that I wanted to add. Karen, is there anything else that you'd like to add from the IPL perspective on, or Alora or Jason, anything else that you guys would like to add? And Karen and Alora, in case you're talking, you're on mute. Okay, Karen just came off mute.
Yeah, and I think you covered everything.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Great. Jason just sent in that he's good. Anything else, Alora? Anything on your end? Sounds like probably not.
Oh, sorry, I was trying to unmute myself.
That's okay.
I'll just say everything sounds good. I just encourage people to one thing that's been that's been surprising thing that we've been reaching out to groups that are not faith-based, but they do environmental work, but they have people who are faith people that support their work or volunteer with them. So they may not be, our typical group, but they have a lot of people who say, yeah, we're not a faith group, but a lot of us in here go to church, we're this, we're that. So we've gotten a good response from that. So I encourage people, when you're doing outreach, don't just discredit some of the groups that aren't faith groups, because they do have a lot of members and supporters who are people of faith who will support, what we're trying to do, and are happy to see that the faith community is taking such a great lead on, this issue and really trying to reach out to people about the environment.
Great. That sounds good. What we'll do with our weekly calls is we'll start with the assumption that they're going to be a half an hour. Some of them may go longer than that, but we think that some of them, that's probably going to be just about the right amount of time. So 5:30 Eastern time on Mondays from now through the through the date of the march is when we'll have our regular gathering time. We're going to set up starting next week a link so that once you've got a link for the call, for the weekly call, you can just use the same link and the same number over and over again. That'll be a little bit different for panelists, because we always need to generate a special thing for panelists. And I think the last thing I'd say is if any of you are aware of any really good or inspiring stories around mobilizing work that's going on in different faith communities for PCM, let us know, because we'd like to make sure that we feature as many good different stories and folks as we possibly can. So I think that's it. I'm not seeing any more questions. Oh, hang on a sec. We got one chat come in. Okay, that's between Nana and Alora, so that's good. So I think we're all set for today. I think the good news is we've got our route. It's an exciting route. I can't wait to hear what the idea is for the collective action when we encircle the White House. But I assume I'm not alone in terms of saying that I can't wait to say a prayer and also maybe shout a little bit around the White House. So anyway, it'll be great to connect with everybody. Oh, hang on a second. I think we've got one more chat function. Amen. We got an amen. All right, there we go. All right, well, great. Many thanks, everybody, for joining in. Thanks to Karen and Jason and Alora for their super updates, and we'll talk again soon. Take care, everybody, and good rest of the day. Bye-bye now, and God bless.
Bye, Fletcher. Thanks.
Yeah, bye-bye, everybody.